This series is a collection of messages that shine light on what is taking place in the body of Christ and in the world today. The scriptures reveal past, present, and future. So the church should not be reacting to end time events, but discerning them by the word of God and moving by faith. The Bible declares that judgment must begin at the house of God. So we know that the Lord first deals with his people for the good of the bride in order to prepare her for the marriage supper of the Lamb. I present to you Understanding the Times. May you be edified. May the Lord be glorified. Stay close to Christ. So the spirit of Molech was the female was given entertained for sacrifice. So let's just, first of all, let's start with a quote from one of my favorite writers. He says, entertainment is the devil's substitute for joy. The more joy you have in the Lord, the less entertainment you need. So let's just start with just looking at Molech or Moloch. Moloch, also spelled Molech, is a Canaanite deity associated in biblical sources with the practice of child sacrifice. The name derives from the combining of the consonants of the Hebrew Melech, which means king, with the vowels of the Boshet, shame, the latter often being used in the Old Testament as a variant name for the popular god Baal or Lord. In the Hebrew Bible, Moloch is represented as a foreign deity who at times was illegitimately given a place in Israel's worship as a result of the syncretistic policies of certain apostate kings. The laws given to Moses by God expressly forbade Jews to do what was done in Egypt or Canaan. You shall not give any of your children to devote them by fire to Moloch, and so profane the name of your God. Yet kings such as Ahaz and Manasseh, having been influenced by the Assyrians, are reported to have worshipped Moloch at the hilled site of Topheth outside the walls of Jerusalem. So let's see what Jeremiah has to say about this. So in Jeremiah 32 and 30 and 35, he said, for the children of Israel and the children of Judah have done evil before me in their youth. For the children of Israel have only provoked me to anger with the work of their hands, saith the Lord. And they built the high places of Baal, which are in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and daughters to pass through the fire unto Molech, which I commanded them not, neither came it into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin. So the command, as was read, comes from Leviticus. It was, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. And the result of this disobedience, it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, again thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones, and I will set my face against that man, and I will cut him off from his people, because he hath given of his seed unto Molech, to defile my sanctuary and to profane my holy name. And if the people of the land do any ways hide their eyes from the man, when he giveth of his seed unto Molech, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and cut him off, and all that go whoring after him to commit whoredom with Molech from among their people. So I just want to emphasize the result of this sacrifice that these people were doing. Not only was it for the people who did these sacrifices, who passed their children to the fire to die, but those who saw it and did not kill that person or that mother or father, they had to be dealt with as well. This is how severe the consequences were of disobeying this command. This is how much God hated idolatry, and this is how much God hated children being sacrificed. So what is sacrificing your child to Molech in this context? So Proverbs 22 verse 6 says, train up the child in the way he should go, and this is from the Amplified, in keeping with his individual gift or bent, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Training up a child refers to the total process of molding a child's life. The word train, chanat, comes from the root word meaning to put into the mouth and implies the idea of conditioning the palate. Thus, parental training should help develop a taste for the things of God. In my house growing up, all I got was a taste for the things of God. If my mum heard secular music coming from my room, or music that did not sound like gospel music or like it was sanctified, she would say to me, "What is that coming from your room?" And I'd have to turn it off. She wouldn't allow it. And so the way my parents lived at home and in church, there was no difference. It was consistent. So when I came to an age of maturity and I was in the world, all I had to go back to was my foundation. My palate was conditioned for the things of God. And so I can tell you this scripture is true. And if we follow it, we will see the results. If we train up the child properly, if we give our children a taste for the things of God, when they come to maturity, they will have a foundation. But if your home is compromised, then they're in trouble, because a lot of the reason why young people are leaving church is because what they see in home is not what they see in church. And they think that their parents are hypocrites because they hear one thing from the platform and their parents are doing something different, or they're allowed to do things at home that is preached against in the church. So a parent's responsibility, according to the word, is to give the children a taste for the things of God, condition their palate to love God, right? So the biblical pattern of effective parental training emphasizes a balance of instruction and discipline. The ideal parent is to be neither overly authoritarian or overly permissive. Rather, he must balance love and discipline so as not to provoke his child to rebellion. When he is old simply means when he is grown up or a mature adult. It does not refer to his elderly years. So the verse stresses the simple principle that education in the home forms the man throughout his lifetime. Okay, so I've put here, Sunday school and church are supplementary secondary learning for our children. Sometimes we blame church, say, oh, well, they should have taught this in Sunday school, or they didn't learn this in church. The home is the primary educational place for your child, naturally and spiritually. And that's the order of God, and it hasn't changed. So it's not the church's fault if our children don't turn out correctly, because it's not the pastor's responsibility to raise your child. And it's not the school's responsibility to raise your child. This is why things like sex education need to be taught in the home. Don't wait for the school to teach your child. They're going to teach your child that if his name is John, he can turn into Kelly or Sally. Primary education comes from parents. Parents, not the church, parents. The church and Sunday school is supplementary and secondary, not primary. This is how God sees it. So, whereas the ancient Israelites sacrificed their children to an idol, many modern day parents are sacrificing their children on the altar of ease, comfort, laziness, and irresponsibility to the God of entertainment. Children are left alone to watch TV or given devices connected to the internet to keep them quiet and entertained or even educated, while their parents are busy, often with no supervision or checks about the content they are viewing or listening to. Even in church, children are given devices to keep them occupied. One of the things I hate to see is a child on the iPad in church. When I was younger, I could not bring my toys to church. And now, back then, it would have just been like a wrestler or something. So all I could do was twist his arms and legs. But an iPad, and with the child can't even read, so we know they're not reading the Bible. What do we think our child is going to grow up with in their mind about church if they can come in church and play in church? When I was young, I used to sit next to my mom sometimes when she was on the choir. I could not misbehave. I could not be running around and playing with my toys. That wasn't acceptable. So if you're now giving your child a device where they can, and if you look at the 7 months old, they just swipe now. The children are programmed from early how to use these devices. That's by design. So if we are giving our children devices to play with in church, then what are we saying about God? you dare not go to the temple and play in those Bible days. Maybe it's because there is no consequence for this type of behavior now immediately why we think it's okay. Because if we did that in something like that in the Old Testament, you would be dead. Parents must be aware of the content their children are consuming. My parents are born in 1940s Jamaica. They could never have predicted what the internet was going to do. There's no way. They were just not up with technology. They can barely use computers. They've got phones now and they've learned, but they could not have predicted what the internet would have done to my generation. But there is no one right now who has a child who has an excuse for allowing them free reign with the internet. Because you know what the internet is. We know what it can do. And we'll get into that later. We need to understand Satan's role as the small g god of this world. Many people are initiated into the occult by music, television, books, and movies. If you even go onto Netflix, you will see most things on Netflix now has some kind of witchcraft or witchy element. Most children's TV shows now have a lot of witchcraft or element of darkness in them. This is not an accident. You can be initiated into these things. These things come to put spirits in your home and in your mind and in your dreams. Sure, we've spoken about music before on this platform, I've heard. We surely know what movies and television can do, even books. But the internet now, this is the next level, because the internet, I call it, is like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But then also, I was watching, I was at a friend's house, or my wife's brother's house, and his child was watching this thing called Coco Melon. So I just decided to look into Coco Melon. And many of your children might watch Coco Melon, but I want to know, did you know that Coco Melon has a baby yoga song? And in this song, it teaches the children yoga. Now, if you don't know about yoga, yoga is not just stretching. Yoga is related to the Hindu religion. It cannot be separated. If you speak to any Hindu or any person who practices yoga in India and is a real deep spiritual Hindu, they will tell you can't separate yoga from the religion. It's a spiritual thing. The movements and the formation of the movements is to open up the body to spirits. And if you can check on our channel, we can show you that there's even certain dance moves. This is why the Egyptians, they would say dance like the Egyptians. If you look on the cave paintings, the Egyptians used to move themselves in certain positions to music to conjure up spirits. This is where break dancing and hip hop comes from. So you have to look at what your children are watching. Now, I'm not blaming you if you didn't know about Coco Melon doing yoga, because sometimes, if you see a nursery rhymes 90% of the time, you might not know. But now, from now on, you should know you need to check everything your child watches. And I'll bring this in. This is why we need to have kingdom stuff. We need to have kingdom things for our children. We need to have kingdom nursery rhymes, kingdom books. Because what does the kingdom mean? It means God's way of doing things. What does a kingdom person present an educational program for a child? How does a kingdom person run a bank? How does a kingdom person run a laundry? How does a kingdom person run a cake shop? We have to think in terms of, we're here to occupy until he comes. We're not just here to just wait till he comes. Occupy, do business. We should have stuff like this for the kingdom, so our children don't even have to watch this stuff. We should have Christian songs in these kind of animations. We need to think on that level. But more importantly, you need to check what your children are watching that is provided by the world, because most of it you will find contains some element that is trying to corrupt their minds. But anyway, so the internet, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, how Satan exploits the internet for evil. Before I move on, anybody have anything they would want to say, contribute, ask, any statement, anything before I move on? No? Okay. So the internet. Let's see. So I just want to play this for you. If you can't hear it, please let me know.
Being the father of lies, he excels in all forms of communication, whether it be verbal, written, or musical. Satan has a command of all the frequencies that mankind is subject to. As a guardian cherub, he understands our nature better than we do, and he knows how to animate our flesh. We must understand there is nothing new under the sun other than the advancement of technology. Satan has remained the same, and so has human nature. The only difference between us and our forefathers is Satan's ability to use the advanced technology previously unavailable to influence mankind. It has always been his aim to program the minds of mankind and to corrupt them. From Babylon to now, Satan has used his ability to control the flow of information to control the masses. This is where we get the pyramid system of religious leadership and capitalism, where the few at the top hold all of the key information which they used to dominate the masses. With his understanding of human nature and his role as chief communicator, he uses frequency and waves now with technology to disseminate his light to mankind. This is why God had to destroy the Tower of Babel, introduce diverse languages, and cause mankind to spread all over the world. Satan had found a way at that time to disseminate his message to all people at the same rate, at the same time, which caused them to align in unity against God. So God split them up and made it more difficult for Satan to get his message to everyone at the same time. Now we have the internet, where Satan can spread his message and reach everyone at the same rate, at the same time. And so we see, as the Bible says, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be now. Satan has once again found a way to spread his darkness and his data and his information at an efficient rate to all the peoples of the earth and of the world.
You can find that full video on our channel, and it's called The Art of War, Lucifer, Heaven's Head of Communications. Now, what that is dealing with is the fact that we often hear that Satan was a musician in heaven. He was more than a musician. He was over communication. And I go into that in the video. But that's why in this universe, he is the prince of the power of the air. Satan is a master at communication, whether it be music, whether it be through the airwaves, whether it be language. That is his major. And so the internet is now a way where Satan can make up for all the deficiencies he has. He's not omnipotent. He's not omnipotent. He's not omnipresent. But in this verse, and we'll maybe get onto the metaverse later, but in this internet universe, he can attempt to be all those things. And communication and false communication is how he does it. Right? Because what did he do? He tricked the 1/3 of the angels in heaven, and he tricked Eve into believing his lie. He's all about false communication, and he's a master at it. So the internet, sorry, something is blocking my screen. I'm just going to see if I can move it. I'm going to stop and share again. Sorry about that. See if this makes it better. No. Sorry. Here we go. Sorry, the internet in the hands of mankind, especially children, is like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I say this because, like the tree in the garden, it represents choice. Adam and Eve were placed in the garden with guidelines. Eve's disobedience opened her understanding to a choice. Before all they partook of was good, but the tree represented a good outside of God and an evil they never knew. In the hands of an innocent child, the internet can give them knowledge of things their adolescent minds are not capable of digesting, rewiring them for Satan's purpose. And in the hand of the already corrupted adult, it can be a place where they indulge in all the lust of the flesh. But like money, the internet itself is not evil, but it can be exploited for good and bad. And as we see, we are here right now, so the internet can be used for good. I just want you to watch this as well. We did a session on what we call Family Day, and we have a Christian brother he trains people in how to use the internet and internet safety for children and for parents. And I just want you to hear how he approaches and his perspective on the internet and children and parents.
So in the chat, type in which of the following can be done or should be done without training or supervision. Okay, now someone has said none. None. it still stands. Yes, I think that's correct. We wouldn't expect any single one of these things to be done without training or supervision. And the point being made is that it actually could lead to death. The person could die if they try using any one of these things without training or supervision. We just wouldn't expect it. And naturally, with each one of these, we have varying degrees of expertise with the knowledge that comes in using them. You have an entry-level driver. Anybody can be trained to drive, and they will drive. But then you have stunt drivers, people who can do all kinds of things in cars, okay? So the level of learning and development, it will depend. Not everybody's going to be a surgeon, but people, if they do want to be a surgeon, they will have to learn, and they will have to get guidance, and they will have to have practice and training before they actually deal with people that need and require that professional support and help. I believe it's the same with the internet. We are now faced with just everybody having access to the internet. Our children, our young people, they have access to the internet. And we sometimes presume that people will just know how to navigate it. They will just know how to use it. But I think we need to see the internet in the same way, because it's true that people can die if they are left unsupervised online, if they're not given the training. We expect that when people go to drive a car, that they will have the training first. You don't just expect someone to just drive freely on the road, because they cannot just kill themselves, they can kill other people. It is unfortunately the same thing. That might sound extreme to some of you, but there are so many cases where people have been left unsupervised, young people have been left unsupervised online, and it has tragically resulted in the unfortunate death of that young person, or maybe other people that they were connected with. So then what do? We need to look at this just as we would look at any of these other things here. We need to either be able to give guidance ourselves, and maybe when it comes to the cooking knives, a parent will be able to do that. But aside from that, and maybe to some degree, the car, if you're a driver yourself, you'll be able to give some kind of guidance when it comes to how to drive a car. But there are things there that require expert help and expertise, expert guidance in helping people to navigate and understand, and which is why I said that I will frame the reason why I said that it'd be good to be in touch with people like myself who are able to help you, help your family, and help to set up things that you might not have knowledge regarding in terms of internet safety and in terms of structure and setup. Because just like each one of these, there are steps to take. And I'm a believer in incremental freedom. So whatever restrictions you put in place, there should also be an agreement as to when those restrictions will be increased and lifted. If everybody who learned to drive a car was never, ever able to just drive by themselves one day, then it would be very frustrating. And this is sometimes what happens with young people. We put restrictions in place. We don't tell them when those restrictions will be lifted. We don't give them that gradual independence. And this is what we're trying to do, train digital citizens. Let me move on.
So does anyone have any opinion or want to react to what the brother was saying? Nobody?
I guess I can, as a parent. I totally agree with everything that he said. Some of this we don't work out in advance. We're learning on the job as parents, right? So we're putting restrictions in, and like he said, sometimes we're not lifting them soon enough, or we're not managing our children's expectations. We got to get the balance right between giving them tools and then keeping them protected. And I think we can either be extreme in trying to protect them, and then they become, illiterate and not aware, and maybe desperate to get into things that we've held back from them. So I think what he's setting up there and what he's outlining is really key.
Right. And it's not an excuse to not know. You might not know, but you can get the knowledge. And there are people like him, saved and unsaved, who can tell you how to set up these restrictions and tell you how to manage your children's internet access, so that when they are on their device, you can view what they're seeing, or if they go to somewhere that they shouldn't go, you get an alert, or they can't go there at all because of the way it's been set up. But it's not an excuse now to say, I don't know. Like, my parents had that excuse. This is not catching us by surprise anymore. So there is no excuse. We need to educate ourselves as if you're a parent, but even as an adult, because if you have problems with using certain parts of the internet, maybe you need to put some restrictions on yourself, and there are websites that can help you with that. But it's not enough to just not know and not do anything. We're beyond that point now. We're past the point of ignorance. So we must. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that to let people know just how dangerous these things can be if they go unsupervised. Just the other day, I heard of a situation with a kindergartner. He was at school and another friend of his took his tablet, and on the tablet was pornography, and he was showing it to this little 6-year-old boy. So we take these things for light, but you do want to set up certain measures on your children's devices and know what it is that they're seeing, know what it is that they're doing. Even as an adult, sometimes you go online and you may be looking for something in particular, and all of a sudden, some pop-up comes up, and those things, once it engages your eyes, you have to have a resolve not to go into it. Children are curious. They're going to want to know what this is and, explore some more. And before you know it, their entire spirit is corrupted, because our eyes and our ears are gates and portals to our spirits.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can I just add to that the children are so smart. They are outsmarting us. Okay. So they know how to log into a device as a guest, for example, and view stuff. So you think you're monitoring them. They know how to jump from a tablet to a laptop. Like, this is a serious everyday thing, and we need to stay on top of it. There are sites that help people to assist suicide. I was just watching a BBC article about that today, and this person had said, please, one thing you do, just make sure you work hard to get this site shut down. That was on a suicide note. So it's so serious. I don't want to say anymore, but let's really do everything we can to learn.
Right. We must train children how to use the internet. Without proper supervision, we are exposing our children to destruction and ultimately death. We should teach our children how to use the internet to spread the gospel. Digital evangelism is a necessity in this age. So as Pastor Joseph was saying, yes, our children need to use the internet just to live, just to work now. But we're believers here. Our children need to know how to spread the gospel on the internet. What are we doing right now? We're using the internet to share the word, to spread the gospel. We use it to pray. And COVID has forced many people who have just left the internet out of their church to actually adopt it and to use it. We might not get to this, but the internet or Zoom is supplementary, is not a replacement. So let's not get that wrong. This is not to replace the gathering of the saints. But digital evangelism is a necessity, because all we have to do is look at the Apostle Paul. He used everything at his means to spread the gospel. He used boats, he walked, he used horses or whatever animals they used to get around in those days. And if he was alive today, he would use the internet to spread the gospel. Like, the internet is not a place where we shouldn't have a place. We should use it, we should know how to use it, and we should use it to the best of our ability. So our children should be digitally aware. We should want them to learn how to use the internet, because if Satan is using it for evil, why can't we use it for good? Yeah, that doesn't go for everything, but the internet, we can use it for good, and it has been used for good. So we need to actually allow our children to learn how to use it for good. Okay. So Satan has an end time plan too. The core of his plan is to destroy as much souls as possible before his time is up. The seemingly infinite increase in immorality and darkness and demonic activity is no accident. Satan does not have infinite resources. He has a limited army, but with technology doing his bidding, he can now use more of his manpower to do basic deeds such as monitoring, tempting, and seduction to do evil. We don't have time tonight, but if you want to know more about this, check out a video I have on the YAM website talking about big data. Big data, and Sister Kerry Ann was praying about the algorithms. Algorithms are doing the job of demons. So Satan has more manpower. Remember, he doesn't have an unlimited army. But now, because algorithms are doing the job that demons used to do in terms of monitoring and tempting people, Satan don't need to send no woman to tempt no man. He's just looking at what you typed into Google. He doesn't need to send anybody to you. All this big data, which is just maths and algorithms, all it is doing is aiding and abetting what Satan tries to do to us, which is to tempt us, which is to seduce us to do evil. Yeah. So Satan, as we know, is defeated, but in the last times we know that sin abounds, but grace yet more abounds. But this is how sin is abounding, because he is using technology to help him. So as I said before, the internet is how Satan is trying to achieve God-like status, omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. But as we know, the counterfeit is never as good as the real thing. So this is where it gets very deep. And I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of this tonight, but this is where we are moving into a whole new avenue. But Sister Karen, you raised your hand.
Just before we go into that, there is a question on YouTube, somebody called Fish and Pan. They said they have a question. Is Molech only one god?
From what I've read, it was one of many idols that the Israelites were playing around with, so to speak. So as far as I know, he was just one of the many idols that they were fornicating with, or adulterating with is maybe the correct way to put it. Is that it?
Thank you. That's it. So Fish and Pan, I think that answers, I hope that answers your question. If not, let us know in the chat. But as far as the presenter knows, it is just one of the many gods.
The metaverse, Satan's endgame. Okay, so here's a video. It's about 6 minutes long, and I just want you to watch it. And if you have a pen and paper, I just want you to note down anything you notice about what you hear about this man explaining what the metaverse is. I've put some flash points on the screen to prompt you, but like I said, take notes and just listen to this.
The metaverse explained with examples. In this video, I want to explain what the metaverse is by giving you some real and practical examples. Remember Second Life, launched in 2003, was an early version of a metaverse, I guess, with being an immersive shared virtual space. So the idea of a metaverse has been around for some time, but it's really thanks to recent advances in tech and the backing of tech giants like Facebook, Microsoft, and Nvidia that there's been this growing interest in building these simulated worlds that model our reality or even go beyond it. The definition of a metaverse is a persistent shared 3D virtual space linked into the perceived virtual universe. So Mark Zuckerberg describes the metaverse as the internet that you are inside of rather than just looking at. So what could an actual metaverse look like? And before we do this, it's probably useful to look at some of the key components that will make up this metaverse in the future. The first one is avatars. So they are 3D representations of players, and they can literally take any physical characteristic or personality. So in the future, we will have digital avatars or one avatar for us. And these are basically able to seamlessly move between different components. So we already have many virtual components like shopping, games, casinos, concerts, all of this happening online digitally. In the future, the avatar can go from one to the other in a seamless way. But at the moment, we haven't got the platforms to bring it all together and create this, so we can't use the same avatar across different platforms. The other thing that a metaverse will enable is having this emergent user behavior. So instead of having a narrow range of functionalities, like when you play a video game, you can only fight someone else, you can't then suddenly decide actually I want to now take my virtual dog for a walk, or I want to climb a mountain instead, or go to a concert. So what this will happen in the future is that more of these things allow us to do anything, to move from one to the other. And the other key component is that we have more mature technology to give us this really great user experience. So what I'm seeing is we get better headsets that are becoming lighter, more immersive, better visuals, better sound, we'll have faster network, and we have this ability to easily create digital twins. So if you want to have your house, a building, a car put into the digital world as a digital replica, this is easier than ever. And then we want some interoperability. So basically, today's digital world act almost like a mall where every store uses its own currency, its own content, own ID card. And in the metaverse, digital assets, content, and data need to carry over from one place to the next. So if you, for example, if you buy a virtual Ferrari in the Ferrari virtual store, you can then drive this car throughout the virtual world in different places, in different settings. So let's look at some real examples that will give you an idea of what the metaverse might look like. And for me, my first recommendation is to watch the movie Ready Player One, which for me is a great example of what a metaverse looks like. So this is based on a novel and is set in 2045, where people basically escape from the real world that is destroyed by climate change, war, and poverty, and they take refuge in the Oasis, a massive online role-playing game and virtual society with its own currency where you can do whatever you want to do. And for me, this is a glimpse of what the metaverse might look like in the future. But we have other examples today where we get components of this. So in Fortnite, for example, the video game, in the last few years, Fortnite's CEO, Tim Sweeney, has made it clear that he aims to establish Fortnite much more than just a game. And a good example is that they recently hosted concerts in Fortnite by artists like Travis Scott, Marshmello, and Ariana Grande. Then we have Facebook's Horizon, which is this expanded VR world that is currently in beta. So Facebook describes Horizon as a social experience where you can explore, play, and create with others in virtual reality. And then we have places like Somnium Space, a VR world builder platform that supports virtual real estate trading and ownership. It is built on blockchain architecture and has its own in-app currency called Sonium Cubes that can be used to purchase properties. And then we have IMVU, a large avatar-based 3D social networks where users can interact with friends, shop, hang out at gatherings, and earn real money by creating virtual products, for example. The platform's 7 million plus users spend an average of 55 minutes a day on the site. So I hope this gives you a glimpse into the future of the metaverse. However, we will need new protocols, technologies, and innovations along the way to make it happen. So there won't just simply be a flicking of the switch moment where the metaverse explodes into existence. Instead, what the metaverse will like.
Sorry, it got cut off, but I think we've heard enough. I'm just going to check the comments to see if there's anything. Okay. All right. Anybody have any comments thus far? Anybody notice anything that they would like to bring up? Anything stick out to them about this metaverse? I won't say concept because it's already here. It's just not fully fleshed out yet. Anybody have anything to comment that they noticed? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to give you some
The metaverse.
prompts. So before I get into it, I just want to get to some scripture. It says, and even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whispers, backbiters, haters of God, despisers, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents. Inventors of evil things. Keep that in mind. And so what I want to do now is help us to connect the dots, because one of the things the enemy is good at is he stops us from being able to put things together. And that is actually the Greek definition of understanding. The word synesis, it means putting things together. And what a lot of Christians are not able to do is to put things together. And the devil likes to obstruct our understanding and thinking. But I'm going to help us put this together. So I've got this little demonstration here, and I put a web for a reason, because the metaverse is a trap. So here's some things to consider. Facebook's metaverse, the timing of Facebook's metaverse announcement. All right. Okay. Also, virtual reality, augmented reality equals distortion of the truth. It encourages escapism, which is a direct cause of addiction. It is a place to fulfill your wildest fantasies with seemingly no consequences. Many technological advances have been driven by the porn industry. Is a sin in the metaverse a real sin? These are the type of questions that are going to be coming up. If I sin in the metaverse, am I really sinning? Satan is a corrupter, not a creator. Satan is not omniscient, omnipotent, or omnipresent. The meta church. How should Christians perceive the metaverse? The metaverse encourages neglecting real human interaction. Children are early adopters, invested in the concept and the reality of the metaverse. Stuff like Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox. This is by design. Who will police the metaverse? Does the metaverse encourage a godly perspective? So these are just some things to consider. So now, when it comes to Facebook's name change, Facebook changes its name to Meta in a major rebrand. The company said it would better encompass what it does as it broadens its reach beyond social media into areas like virtual reality. When did Facebook announce this? The date is the 28th of October, 2001. By that time, we've been almost a year and a half into a pandemic, which has forced people online. It's forced even the church online. The timing of their announcement is no accident. It is by design. Listen to what their leader said.
The next platform and medium will be even more immersive, an embodied internet where you're in the experience, not just looking at it. And we call this the Metaverse. And you're going to be able to do almost anything you can imagine. Anything you can imagine.
Now, there was a recent expose by one of their employers called Frances Hogan, and she accused them of putting profits over safety. So just put this in your mind. Putting on a virtual reality goggle over your head, we don't know how that would affect you over a 5 or 10 year period if you're doing that regularly. A lot of the things that they are dealing with, we have no idea how that would affect us physically, but mentally how it will affect us is the key thing. But what I want to point out here is that this is beyond your child just looking at a screen or you just looking at a screen. This is now what they call immersive or immersion. You are now going to be almost in this world. This is going to be another reality, right? And now we know if we're dealing with another reality, we know if we're dealing with something that's not truth, then it's got to be of the devil, right? It's got nothing to do with God. So listen to this. Porn, the hidden engine that drives innovation in tech. While the military created the internet, it would not have found a solid consumer base without porn. Not only did the adult industry find enough early consumers to keep the internet around, but it then pioneered video streaming, tracking devices, and online credit card transactions. The concept of e-commerce, which is now a major part of the world economy, owes much of its early existence to porn. The industry has convincingly demonstrated that consumers are willing to shop online and are willing to use credit cards to make purchases, said Frederick Lane in Obscene Profits, the Entrepreneurs of Pornography in the Cyber Age. In the process of the porn industry has served as a model for a variety of online sales mechanisms, including monthly site fees and provision of extensive free material as to lure site visitors, and the concept of upselling, selling related services to people once they have joined in the site. In a myriad of ways, large and small, the porn industry has blazed a commercial path that other industries are hastening to follow. And I'm just going to go to the end of this. It shouldn't be surprising then that researchers like Barr suggest that any business model for new communications technologies should venture into the porn market during its early days, even if Google bans it. I'm telling you, all of this, most of this is driven by pornography, or the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, right? This is what drives a lot of tech industries. And if you've been looking online about the metaverse, there's some stories that don't make the mainstream news because they're too obscene. A lot of the metaverse is being pushed by people's desire to have sex online, which goes beyond watching pornography, because this is putting you into the actual scene or whatever you're trying to do. This is a completely different thing from just watching a screen. It's taking you inside. Now, digital escapism. Escapism, the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. In the context of this study, escapism is literally escaping God's truth, his law, his perspective. Trying to escape reality is not new and not always harmful. However, at its worst, escapism leads to suicide. Addiction as a way to escape reality is also not new, but creating a virtual reality that can be inhabited almost 24/7 is new. The internet, sorry, is that someone commenting? No? The internet, and more increasingly the metaverse, is a place where people try to escape, to achieve, and do all the things they have failed to do in the real world. This is about replicating life. This is about a fake version of life. So and this is from a study that was done on digital escapism. With increased time spent on the internet, on internet-based gaming and recreational applications, there is now a new trend of digital escapism, along with private space in the virtual world. When we talk about escapism, sometimes it carries feelings of guilt in the mind. Excessive use of the internet, mostly for pleasure, leads to internet addiction. It in turn leads to psychological disorders. It creates internet disorder syndrome, or digital escapism, which invites stress, depression, deviation from own goals, sleeplessness, and anxiety. This conceptual paper examines the gravity of such addiction and the nature and types of digital escapism. But here their conclusion in the first part of their study. This paper observes that the users, when addicted, would always love to live online and leave reality. This is the ultimate purpose, to have you leave reality and go online and just stay online and be in line and be immersed in something that is not real. Now, as we know, God is a spirit and we worship him in spirit, in truth, in reality. If you are online and in another reality, and that is where you are trying to live because you feel like a failure in the real world, you can't be worshiping God. So we know that biblical escape comes from God. And we know that escaping things is not always us leaving or not being in a situation. As the scripture says, that he's going to give us a way to escape, but that we may be able to bear it, meaning that escape sometimes is bearing it. It's not just leaving it. Escape is sometimes getting the grace to bear it. But what this new generation, what this new philosophy, what this whole concept is trying to teach us is, if you don't like reality, you can change it. You can be your own God. You are a God. It's from Eastern philosophy. It's the whole idea of self-deification, and that you are the master of your own destiny. Self-determination, the same thing that Satan sold to Eve in the garden. You can be God. You can be like God. You can be a God. The same thing he thinks, that he can be like God. He's trying to sell us his same fallen nature. And this is what this system is about. So let's just get into some more about this disorder. So just because you use the internet a lot, watch a lot of YouTube videos, shop online frequently, or like to check social media, does not mean you suffer from internet addiction disorder. The trouble comes when these activities start to interfere with your daily life. In general, IAD is subdivided into varying categories. The most commonly identified categories of internet addiction include gaming, social networking, email, blogging, online shopping, and inappropriate internet pornography use. I don't know, they could be appropriate, but this is written by secular people. Other researchers suggest that it is not the amount of time spent on the internet that is particularly troublesome, rather it is how the internet is being used. That is, the riskiness of internet use can be just as important as the amount of time spent. Do you have a teenager using teen dating sites that could have child molesters lurking on the site? This is risky, and one of the multidimensional aspects of internet addiction disorder. Other identified multidimensional risk factors of internet addiction disorder include physical impairments, social and functional impairments, emotional impairments, impulsive internet use, and dependence on the internet. So I've put these scriptures here. This is another way that the enemy is trying to trick us out of casting our cares, trick us out of going to God when we're in need, going to God when we're stressed. The metaverse and the internet, which is one and the same, but the metaverse is now using the internet to immerse you in it. It's trying to take away that relationship that we should have with God. And now we can just go and create a new reality and create a new world because we don't like the one we live in. Right. This is where it starts to get very interesting. Like most disorders, it's not likely to pinpoint an exact cause of internet addiction disorder. This disorder is characteristic of having multiple contributing factors. Some evidence suggests that if you are suffering from internet addiction disorder, your brain makeup is similar to those that suffer from a chemical dependency, such as drugs or alcohol. Interestingly, some studies link internet addiction disorder to physically changing the brain structure. And this you're going to see now is a theme, the changing of our brain, the rewiring of our brains because of addiction to the internet and because of use of the metaverse. Right. So it specifically is affecting the amount of gray and white matter in the regions of the prefrontal brain. This area of the brain is associated with remembering details, attention, planning, and prioritizing tasks. You want to know why some of our children cannot pay attention in service? Their brain has been rewired. They've been addicted to the internet. They use the internet so much, and they're so used to swiping. They're so used to playing these games or watching these 20-second videos on TikTok that you can't pray for more than 20 seconds with them. They're bored. They can't hear the whole of Psalms 1. It's too much. 6 verses, I think it is. It's too much for them. They've been stimulating themselves in a way that is rewiring their brain. Right. It is suggested that one of the causes of internet addiction disorder is structural changes to the prefrontal region of the brain. It is suggested one of the causes of internet addiction disorder is structural changes to the prefrontal region of the brain are detrimental to your capability to prioritize tasks in life, rendering you unable to prioritize your life, i.e. the internet takes precedence to necessary life tasks. Internet addiction disorder, in addition to other dependency disorders, seem to affect the pleasure center of the brain. The addictive behavior triggers a release of dopamine to promote the pleasurable experience activating a release of this chemical. Over time, more and more of the activity is needed to induce the same pleasurable response, creating a dependency. That is, if you find online gaming or online shopping pleasurable activity and you suffer from an addiction to the internet, you will need to engage in more and more of the behavior to institute the same pleasurable feeling prior to a dependency. The variable reinforcement effects of internet addiction is another cause of this behavior. According to the VRRS theory, the reason why you might be so addicted to internet activity, gaming, gambling, shopping, pornography, is because it provides multiple layers of rewards. That is, your constant surfing of the internet leads to multiple rewards that are unpredictable. Now, this is where the metaverse is going to take it to another level. If you are already in the mindset and your brain has already been rewired to the point where you need the multiple layer of rewards that the internet provides, which currently it might just be online gaming, pornography, or whatever. When you are in this universe, which anything can happen at any time, you go into this neighborhood, you go into this place, you will never want to leave because there will be multiple layers of rewards that are never ending. So it is a trap. You will never want to leave the metaverse. This is why the kids or the children are invested from early. This is why the enemy has got them invested from early, because eventually he wants them to transfer their concept of reality to being dual or single, to being, now I live in the metaverse. And we're going to see why that's more impactful later on. So let's move on. Oh yeah, let me just add this last bit. So it says each sign-on, so this is talking about the multiple layers of pleasure. Each sign-on gives you unpredictable results that keep you entertained and coming back for more. Certain games such as MMORPGs, which is massively multiplayer online role-play games, including World of Warcraft, EverQuest, and Fortnite, and all of these, some of these games that your children may play, may lead to internet addiction because in effect, they never end. So the Bible says in Proverbs 27:20, Sheol, the place of the dead, and Abaddon, the underworld, are never satisfied, nor are the eyes of man never satisfied. Lust is never satisfied. So these games that they're playing now on I don't know, iPad or Xbox or PlayStation, that's the setup. Because when they can be in the game, they're never going to want to leave. Because there will just be too much pleasure to be had. It's unlimited. There will be no end. Now, funnily enough, Facebook's name, Meta, in Hebrew, means dead. So this dead universe, deadverse, is going to be a place of zombies. None of this is an accident. So Satan wants the kids. Listen to this. This is where now I really need you to pay attention. Today's kids have kickstarted the metaverse. And remember, this is worldly people. This is not believers. The world are actually worried about the metaverse, right? But I want to say also, we are the solution. We are the light of the world and the salt of the earth. We have to understand that we have the answer to this. So kids have kickstarted the metaverse. Today, the children carry the world in their pockets. The metaverse gives them the agency to build and shape that world. Today's children carry the world in their pockets and enjoy instant access to all types of content. They don't just choose among channels. They think in terms of what exactly they want to do right now. A game, a video, or an app, alone or with friends, consuming or creating. Could any development disrupt such vast choices? David Baszucki, CEO of Roblox, says, yes, he believes the metaverse is arguably as big a shift in online communications as the telephone or the internet. The metaverse refers to immersive, global, always on, omni-experiential spaces for entertainment, learning, play, creation, communication, socializing, and more. Its potential dimensions are still emerging, but imagine the convergence of virtual and augmented reality technologies resulting in a navigable 3D immersive world containing a near infinite content options for any audiences or players. More than in most games and online experiences that preceded this, the metaverse will build and shape the space they use. Given the extensive personal agency they acquire there, creation will be as much part of their experience as consumption. Are you hearing what this guy is saying? The children will be a part of the world that they are creating. Now, what does that mean? In 15 to 30 years time, if your children have been a part of creating the world they exist in, there's not going you won't be able to tell them that the real world is the real world, because they have created another reality. They have become a god. So how do you convince them that this is reality and that that's not reality? You won't be able to. It'll be too late. Right. Bazuki should know Roblox, sometimes thought as the YouTube of gaming, is the best current proto-metaverse with 202 million monthly active users who invested 9.7 billion hours on the platform in the first quarter of 2021. That's 9.7 billion hours of children not being educated about the word, not praying, not worshiping, nothing to do with God. Its growth exploded during the pandemic while so many kids were at home full time, like I said, by design. Now, like I said, the world is concerned. Is the metaverse meant for kids? The metaverse will have kids-safe and adult-only neighborhoods. Uniquely, though, users, including kids and teens, will themselves build much of the metaverse and shape its ethos. Roblox Bazooki's 8 characteristics of metaverse parallel the social and gaming preferences and desires of Generation Z and Alpha. So, identity, avatars that reflect players' real or imagined selves and remain present and consistent anywhere. So those children now who are convinced that they are trans, in the metaverse, they can be anything they want to be now. So they will be a boy, but on the metaverse, they'll just turn themselves into a girl and you can't tell them otherwise. Friends, the ability to socialize and play with real world friends, but also befriend and interact with other users. Immersiveness, engagement in a fully formed alternative world. Not the one that God created now, because they're calling this a world. They're not calling it an alternative space or an alternative, game. This is an alternative world. Look at the words they're using. Ubiquity, the ability to create and play from anywhere on all types of devices. So right now, if I have an Xbox and you have a PlayStation, we can't play the same game together. What they're doing now is that every device will be able to access this. Sound familiar? Variety, accommodation of diverse user interests and habits via deep, wide content, low friction, easy onboarding and transitions to encourage to try new things. Economy, internal commerce. So all of this Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is to underline and to help with this. This was going to make, because you can't, if you're in a virtual universe, then how are you going to use cash? So this is where electronic money is helping to facilitate this. So trust and civility, a welcome, equitable, diverse kind of space. Now, diverse these days just means LGBT. Add these elements, add to these elements with the intrinsic motivation of building and world they'll inhabit, not to mention learning to code while doing so. The metaverse is spawning a new generation of designers and entrepreneurs. So here's some notes I've put on this. It is impossible to comprehensively police the internet. So the same goes for the metaverse. You will not be able to stop abusers, pedophiles, and all manner of evildoers from doing what they want to do. You won't be able to stop it. It will be an even easier platform for predators to groom children. A report by the World Health Organization concludes 80% of children between the ages of 11 and 17 aren't physically active enough. So this is going to kill you physically, spiritually, and mentally. The metaverse will provide a more deeply immersive false reality where the agendas of the world can be implanted, imprinted, and explored by children unbeknownst to their parents. You won't be able to see what your children are doing in the metaverse. You won't know what doctrine and what foolishness that is going to be implanted into them. But I tell you what, it won't be the Bible. So remember, this is secular people now who are worried. What parents need to know about the coming metaverse? So 1 second, I just need to move something on my screen. So what's unique about the 2021 iteration of the metaverse is that it includes fully immersive 3D, VR, virtual reality, and augmented reality worlds that transcend screen viewing by putting the user inside the game spatially. This is an entirely new and more personal experience that, according to a 2019 study conducted by Facebook, can impact how bullying, harassment, and lewd content, as well as positive content, are experienced by users in the metaverse. You hear that? Now, previous research conducted in 2008 by neuroscientists found distinct differences in how adult brains process VR, virtual reality, versus the brains of children. Adults appear to control and regulate their VR presence experience by critically evaluating and monitoring the presented virtual environment stimuli. Children, on the other hand, did not, or at least to a greatly reduced extent. Baumgartner's research team wrote, one consequence might be that one should be more reluctant to expose children to emotional virtual stimuli as currently practiced. In English, basically what that is saying is, as an adult, we could go into this world and realize this is not real and be able to monitor and process how we feel and think. Children can't do that. Their brains are not developed enough. So they're getting in there and they're experiencing real emotions in a fake world. Stanford professor Jeremy Bailenson, who has conducted his own research into the effects of VR on children, also suggests the metaverse is a completely different challenge compared to monitoring the effects of console video games on children. Film, television, or video watched on a tablet may convey sounds and sights captured from the real world. But when we interact with these media, we are almost always aware of their artificiality. They are coming to us from screens or devices held in our hands. But VR engulfs us. We slide the occluding goggles over our eyes and cover our ears with headphones, overriding your two primary sense systems with simulated digital signals. VR is the apotheosis of every media fear and fantasy we've ever had. Now, I want to explain to you what he's saying. This is what apotheosis means. So apotheosis means the highest point in development of something, culmination or climax, or the elevation of someone to divine status. Or it is the glorification of a subject to divine levels, and commonly the treatment of a human being or any living thing or an abstract idea in the likeness of deity. So the metaverse is now, that obsession is going to become an idol. This is Satan's endgame. This is him elevating himself now and elevating this to God-like status. You are becoming a creator. But remember, Satan is a corrupter. He doesn't create. So he's creating a universe within a universe. And now when you choose to go in that universe, you are going to become a part of his creation. This is him trying to really get to the levels of which he spoke of in the scripture, which we'll get to. So it says here, to some degree. So parents need to be aware of what their kids are playing with and who they are playing with. To some degree, we've been here before, as lawmakers have repeatedly examined the effect of video games on children. In those cases, the 2D screen-based gaming console dynamic shielded the player from the full spectrum of the game's 3D world. So playing a 2D game, although it had some effect, it shielded you from a much deeper effect, which the 3D world can. What happens when you virtually immerse the player's entire body into the game, giving the users the spatial sense that they are actually inhabiting the fictional world around them? When compared to non-immersive VR condition, watching a television screen, children in VR showed a significant deficit in inhibitory control. How children react to media is of particular concern because their prefrontal cortex, which is a part of the brain, and the area that is associated with emotion and behavior regulation is not completely developed. That is one of the central challenges facing the metaverse: immersion to such a degree that reality and fantasy are blurred to an extent that the cultural impacts of traditional 2D console gaming may pale in comparison. This thing is trying to rewire your children's brain to the point where they are no longer human. They're talking about transhumanism. How are you going to witness to a child whose brain has been rewired from such an age that he doesn't live in your reality? He doesn't think like you. He doesn't act like you, because from a young child, his brain has been rewired to live in another state. or space that is a fake place, how do you convert that person when their mind doesn't operate normally? Yeah, they have no, this study is saying they don't know how to control themselves when they get into this environment because they haven't had long enough for their brain to be mature. We're dealing with something here that is what we've never seen before. And it is the end game, because Satan trying to create another world, he can't go any, there's no way for him to go after that. And he's not trying. This world is going to exist. And this is his plan. And we have to get out ahead of it. Sometimes in the church, we're far too reactive. When the Bible has told us what's going to happen, we need to be proactive. If anybody's children is going to get into this, it shouldn't be us. And we should be helping our children to save the other children who are going to be in this world. And I'll get into that. I don't know how long we've got left. Okay, let's see what we can do. So it's Fortnite on steroids. Michigan State University media professor Rabindra Ratan told Quartz, it's already hard to monitor what your kids are doing, but at least you can look over their shoulder at a screen. When they are in VR, they are blocked off. You can't really see what they're doing. Parents need to understand kids' games, what they are playing and why they are playing them, who they are playing them with. You have to be an informed consumer right now along with them. This is the world telling you what you need to do. As families transition along with Facebook and other big tech companies from traditional online interactions to fully immersive metaverse experiences, having a better handle on the differences can help parents better navigate this often mysterious landscape as it evolves. So here's an article with some more concerns, and I like the comment that one of the users made. People, it says, reading through hundreds of comments, there were several prominent themes. People were open about their strong dislike and distrust of Zuckerberg and are highly skeptical of the metaverse because of his involvement. Many falsely believe that he owns the metaverse, virtual and augmented reality. A sizable number of people are afraid of what will happen in virtual reality, especially to children and young people. There is also a fear that older people will get squeezed out of emerging technologies. There is a backlash against social media interactive immersive technologies. It seems that folks are uninformed or misinformed about this space. However, a certain percentage are excited about the future prospects of VR and AR. Now, hear this comment. If this does become a reality, it will be the worst step the human race has ever taken and a step backward in evolution. How anyone can be excited by this is beyond me. I am sure that all this new technology could reap great benefits for all. However, it is being squandered and misused by the few, promising untold riches and all your dreams come true alternative life to many, which will sadly and inevitably be worse for most. This fake life cannot be a better option. But they're selling it as this great alternative reality. But I've said here, salt of the earth, light of the world, we must see ourselves, the church, the body, as the solution to this. So I want you to see this.
We are revealing a shocking element slipped into some kids' internet games. Roblox, one of the most popular kid gaming platforms, it reaches more than 90 million users monthly across the world. Now parents are on high alert after finding pornographic images in some games. A warning, this story may not be suitable for all viewers. Our Lauren Freeman explains what's going on and what you can do to keep your kids safe.
Their image is disturbing for most adults to see, and they're quite possibly in a game your child plays. George Tudor was horrified and angered by what his 6-year-old daughter saw.
Unfortunately, we walked into the room, looked at the screen, and it looked like someone, I guess, had hacked into the game and posted a pornographic picture of a woman on the side of one of the walls of the building.
Tudor reached...
So let me explain that to you. That is literally your child is one of these characters in the game, and they're walking through, and someone can place a picture, a pornographic picture in any of these places. It's that easy because these games are user created. You don't know what your children could have seen already, because as you've seen in the beginning of this news item, plenty of these games have had to be taken down because they were made by pedophiles and people trying to seduce children and people putting pornographic images in games. And this Roblox site is used by many people. I think we read it had 220 million people using it daily. So your child could be innocently in a game and the innocence snatched from them just like that. It's that easy.
reached out to Roblox, but couldn't take back what his daughter saw.
Felt bad, really, just having her innocence essentially taken away like that.
And it's not an isolated incident. Other parents have found similar images. To get to the root of the problem, you need to understand how Roblox works.
If I click on that.
Think of it as a YouTube for video games. A gamer makes an account, then it's free to create and upload a game.
This one, I feel like this is going to be popular.
But an open platform can turn into open season for game creators with bad intentions. Tammy Baumick is a Roblox marketing VP.
If there is an incident like that, we work with parents to make sure that we're responding as quickly as possible.
Roblox says over the past 2 years, they've hired more than 800 people to moderate their site. They've also implemented several different privacy features, but it is still important that parents ask questions about what their child is doing. For George Tudor, it's about having honest conversations with your child.
For something like that, you're not going to be in trouble at all. We want to know about things like that because our #1 goal as parents is to protect our kids.
If you see
you can't police it. you can't. You actually can't police it because these games are uploaded every day. So, you know, all it takes is your child to see something once.
We are revealing a shocking...
You know, their best efforts, which I don't really believe they're putting into this, is never going to be enough. Okay. So... Mother sues Meta and Snap over daughter's suicide. This is a horrible story, but I think you need to hear it just to understand how dangerous social media is. Sorry, I'm just trying to hide something on my screen. Okay, that's it. But a Connecticut woman is suing Instagram's parent company, Meta and Snap, alleging an addiction to their social media platform caused the suicide of her young daughter. Selena Rodriguez, an 11-year-old resident of the town of Enfield, committed suicide last year. The lawsuit alleges that her death was caused by potentially dangerous features of the platforms. The case comes amid growing fears over the impact of social media on children. According to a statement from the Social Media Victims Law Center, which filed the suit in California on behalf of Selena's mother, Tammy, the young girl suffered from an extreme addiction to Instagram and Snapchat. Miss Rodriguez confiscated her daughter's devices on multiple occasions, only to have her run away to use social media. On multiple occasions, Selena received mental health treatment for her addiction. The statement said one outpatient therapist who evaluated Selena remarked she had never seen a patient as addicted to social media. This girl is 11. Before her suicide on the 21st of July, 2021, Selena had allegedly suffered from sleep deprivation and depression for months, particularly after the COVID-19 pandemic began and she spent more time on social media. Additionally, the lawsuit alleges that Selena was repeatedly solicited for sexually exploited content, which she ultimately shared. The images were then leaked and shared by her classmates, leading to a deterioration of her mental state and eventually to her suicide. Before I continue, we have sometimes older people who say, oh, well, you're going through the same thing that we went through. And yes, you're right. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, pride of life, the root of all sin. We're all going through the same thing, but it's not the same intensity. Because you at 11 years old could not share a picture of yourself naked on a phone. Yeah. And also pornography was not in your hand. And also the internet wasn't available to you. So when we're talking to these young people and we're saying, no, you're not going through nothing we never went through, we need to stop that because the intensity has never been like this. And the Bible corroborates that. So we need to understand this is a different level of intensity of temptation and darkness that is in the world right now. As bad as it may have been in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, it ain't like that now. And we need to recognize that. The lawsuit, which was filed in a federal courtroom in California on Friday, alleges that both social media giants knowingly and purposefully designed and marketed products that were harmful to a significant number of underage users. These products are targeted at your children. This is a fact. They probably won't win the court case, but this is true. The defendants intentionally created, this is Facebook and Snapchat, created an attractive nuisance to young children but failed to provide adequate safeguards from the harmful effects they knew were occurring on their wholly owned and controlled digital premises, the lawsuit says. So the mother is in this lawsuit is saying Facebook and Snapchat have created an attractive nuisance for children, but they are not protecting them. It's a fact. Once you've created this, you can't protect the children on it. From a child has access to Instagram or Facebook, they're accessing anybody. And predators love this type of thing. Because whereas predators, they would have had to come to school, or they would have had to maybe even been in the church and whatever. They can get you on your device. It's much easier now. It is not the same as it was before. It's the same spirit, but it's a greater intensity. In a statement sent to the BBC, a Snap spokesperson said the company was devastated to hear of Selena's death, although it declined to comment. And then they talked about some lies about the importance of well-being of children, the well-being of children being important to them. But in November, a Facebook product manager, Frances Haugen, who I mentioned before, told lawmakers the company was harming children, but alleged that it won't make the necessary changes because they have put their astronomical profits before people. And this is the love of money being the root of all evil. Facebook, Snapchat, all of these people, they know what they're doing, but they will not do anything to change because they make too much money. So you cannot expect the social media companies and the gaming companies to care about your children. They're making too much money of them. Yeah, that's your job. They're not supposed to protect your children. Mark Zuckerberg is not there to protect your child. And his child probably doesn't even use Facebook, because what you will find out is most of these people high up in tech, they don't allow their children to use these things much at all, only for schoolwork and for the necessities. They don't allow them to play on it. It's us who let our children on it. And now we're coming down, the meta church. What are we gonna do? Listen to this.
We're kind of one church in many metaverses. Well, let's go ahead and begin our baptism service. And thanks for being part of this spiritual moment. When you go underwater, that symbolizes your spiritual cells are soaking in divine love. It symbolizes that you're dying to the old drumsy, the old attitudes and the old things that have held you back. And that stuff is dying. So Drumsy, if you don't mind lowering yourself into the water, all your failures and all your regrets, those things are in the past. I baptize you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. So Drumsy, rise up again into new life. I think we should all celebrate Drumsy. Let's give him a
Yay! Woohoo! Yay! Oh, and the water's gone.
SpongeBob is going to heaven, being saved, having salvation. Is it exclusive through Jesus' name and Jesus' name only? And he was like,
it's like weird. I agree with that, but then I don't at the same time. It just depends how the person is expressing it. So yeah, that's right, but it also could be wrong if they start excluding the power of God to work in people groups from all over the world. I don't think the good news for the whole world is limited to those that were just lucky to be born and to experience, some form of Christianity.
So I want to help us understand that this is where many people will be trying to take the church. They will be a lot of churches now are planning to have fully online services. So in the metaverse right now, some places you can go as a digital character, meet people, and then you can watch a service on the screen. But some people are planning to fully put church in the metaverse. And as you saw, someone was baptizing someone there in the metaverse. This is what they are planning to get our kids involved in. This is how they're planning to trick our children, right? This is why we need to really know who we are and demonstrate that to our children, because if we are true, and I think that we're all from the Apostolic Pentecostal Church here, a lot of our children are leaving the church and going to these other doctrinally unsound churches, which look nice, sound nice, but have no holiness. They've already gone. Now, what do you think the enemy is planning to do to the next generation of children? Because in these other churches, they almost sound like church, and they kind of feel like church, but it ain't really what we know church to be. So if our children are already early adopters of the metaverse, and people are moving churches wholly into the metaverse, and if the enemy convinces them that they can still be saved by living in another reality, then going to a metaverse church and being saved is going to be normal for them. This is what the enemy is trying to do, because he knows that a lot of our children would never ever say, you know, they worship the devil, or, you know, they're going to do this, but they will go to a metaverse church. They will buy into this whole idea that we should bring the whole church online because we can reach everybody. And so I've put here, our children need the Spirit of God to navigate it. We need the Spirit of God to navigate it. If we call ourselves true believers, we need to be differentiated from those who are preaching a false Jesus, a false gospel, and a fake Jesus. And then our children and our grandchildren won't be so accepting of this kind of stuff. We need to really be fruit bearers, because they're not going to be able to know the difference. That's why some of them can go to these churches and not feel a way, because they never saw no real power. And so when they go to these churches, it feels like church, it sounds like church, but guess what? It don't have the aroma of holiness that God accepts. So we now need to stop playing church and be the church. We need to have fruit. We need to have real power when we come together in our homes, everywhere. Because this watered down gospel that these gospel artists are promoting, that these mega churches are promoting, our children are buying into it. I see it every day. They watch these online pastors who spit in people's face and wipe it in, and they love it. They love it. They're eating it all up. Why are they eating it up? And they can't take our sound doctrine. What are we not doing? How are we not living? Because you know what? Children don't care about what you say. They care about what you do. And it wasn't what my parents said to me that won me to Christ. It was what they did. Mostly their love for people, because I couldn't believe how they could love certain people. I said, that must be God. And in my times of trouble, I said, no, I know my parents have something that doesn't make sense, because you can't love someone like that. Our children need an example in the home that they can say that matches up with the word that my parents was teaching me, or they're going to buy into this. They're not going to be able to separate the true from the false because you are fake. And so they will buy the meta church. They'll go to Hillsong. They'll listen to TD Jakes, who has yoga in his church, because they never saw any reality in your house. And TD Jakes sounds nicer. And he can put a message better together than your bishop. So they will go to that because it's entertaining. They'll go to church where they dance to Beyonce. They'll go to church where they got praise dancing every 5 minutes, where you can get into the dance program and never learn about holiness. Why? Because they didn't really see anything different in our church. They didn't really experience any power. Too many children are leaving the apostolic Pentecostal church without ever experiencing the true power of God. And because they have no witness of the true power of God, they can go to these false ministries and partake in them because they never had the real way when they were with us. It's got to change. Because if we don't win them from early, the enemy has a plan. Yeah, if he can't get them into a metaverse church, he'll just get them into the metaverse life. The enemy has 101 ways to get your child. We have to be aware. Satan said he's going to ascend. He wants to exalt his throne above the stars of God. He wants to be above the heights of the clouds. But the Bible says he's going to be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. This is Satan. This metaverse is Satan's attempt to ascend to godlike status. So as I've previously stated, the internet technology is the metaverse, how Satan is trying to achieve godlike status, omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. The metaverse is his last attempt at creating a universe of his own, where he is Lord and God. It is pathetic, but its aim is to drag as many souls to hell with him as possible, because he knows his time is short. For all that is in the world is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. It's pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. and the world passeth away, and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of God abideth forever. The foundation of the metaverse is carnality. There is no godly spiritual intention to this concept. The concept of the metaverse is to totally replace reality. It is a counterfeit of creation. And who is the most notorious counterfeiter? The metaverse is utterly carnal. God does not need to take you for a veil or a layer of falsehood to bring you to truth and reality. So then I've put, so should believers have a presence in the metaverse? Now, based on what I've said, you might think I'm going to say no, but I'm actually going to say yes. And here's how I believe. Here's one of the solutions I believe God has given that we could use. I believe that we should be there, but only in an unconventional way. And the way I call it is guerrilla warfare or marketing. And that means like, it's a different type it's a subversive way of trying to get someone's attention. So listen to this. We could have interactive billboards in strategic places that can exit these people from their world and bring them to reality, to like a real person on the line waiting to speak to them. And it could say something like this. So you can imagine your child, they're walking through the game and or whoever's there, any adult person who's in this world, who's living in this world, you could actually have a presence where you have something that comes up like this. It just says Revelation 1 verse 7, get back to reality before it's too late. And you click on something and it exits them from where they are, and they can actually speak to someone in reality who can give them the gospel or tell them, listen, I can pray for you, and give them guidance. I believe that's the only way we should be interacting with this. We don't need to have church there. I'm really tired of Zoom prayer meeting. I want a real prayer meeting with real people. I want to hold someone's hand. Yeah, because when God, when the church in Acts was established, they went around house to house breaking bread. God intended physical fellowship. So don't be fooled by Zoom church. Don't be fooled by Zoom prayer meeting. It is a supplement. It is not a replacement. God is coming back for what he left. He ain't coming back for Zoom church. If you need to have Bible study on Wednesday, I believe that's fine. Like everybody can't get to the same place. That's fine. But we don't neglect the gathering, because we should be gathering even more as the time comes. But the way I believe we can be active in this metaverse is to almost be like secret agents. We just have things and people who are waiting to extract people. Like in the US Army, they have soldiers who go in and they extract, I think they call them SEAL Team 6. They will go into a country and they will extract soldiers. We need to train our children to be extractors. Your children like Fortnite, they like Roblox, fine. Teach them how to extract people from this place with the gospel. The Bible says we need to pull them out of the fire, right? Even making sure that our own garments don't get burned. We need to go into the digital highways and hedges, not compromising or reinventing church, but pulling people out. That's our job. The body and the church must provide a way of escape, and we can pull people out. Yeah, hating the garments that are spotted by the flesh, but we can train our children, and they can even help us to know how can we affect people. I believe now it's 2022. We got to get into the digital highways and hedges. We go where people are. We don't just stay in the church. We go. If people are in the metaverse, we go and pull them out. We don't go and stay with them. We don't go and enjoy the metaverse. And now we're living in virtuality 24/7. We go and extract people. This is end time warfare. These are the type of things we need to be praying about. God, how are we extracting and pulling people out the fire in 2022? It's a different world. It's not going to be the same as 1960. But it's the same thing we're doing. We're trying to save souls. What I've just presented to you just now in terms of how we could affect it is just one idea. But these are things we need to pray about and strategize about. It is war. You need to know your enemy. You need to know what he's doing, because if you don't know your enemy and you don't know what he's doing, you can't fight him. We need to become extractors. And so it's not that we want our children to hide away from technology and to not know about it. No, tell them how to use it for the glory of God. And the best way I think we can use it in the metaverse is to pull people out of the fire. God bless you.